Hello and welcome to the Reality Vomit Podcast, an extension of the Vomit series of podcast. As always, I'm your host, Mac Taylor, here today to talk to you guys about more Big Brother UK Season 1. Today we're going to get an eviction and some pieces of information I did not know about the game of UK. And just some overall little tidbits. It'll hopefully be a kind of a shorter episode today. I did a couple of damn near 1 hour podcasts about it. And so I just did a couple of pages of notes this time on a couple of episodes. I tried not to do too much, especially since the episode I was getting ready to start was 50 minutes long. And I was like, well, in that case, I should probably just save that for the next podcast. So hopefully we'll go under like 40 minutes today. But depending on how long I rant for, that may or may not be the case. So it's day 14 in the Big Brother UK house, and it's task day. So everyone will have to do that, answer 3 questions about your housemates. And everyone gets 10 minutes to answer their 3 questions, which honestly, that's pretty decent amount of time. And the group is desperate for a win here, because they bet 40 pounds, which is roughly around $50 American. So that's a lot of money for their grocery money. And Craig is their weak link. They're worried about Craig, a beautiful accent Craig. They're worried about him because he has the worst memory of the people in the house. So they go through it, and I didn't really take notes over the questions or the answers. I didn't really find that all that, crazy. But they win. Craig is the only one who misses a question, but he only misses one, so they win. So they get an extra $50 for their shopping budget. And then they are told that they need to let the chickens roam the yard for an hour a day. And Darren is like, what? Chickens in the yard? Fuck that. Shitting all over the yard? No way. Chickens? You guys know I hate chickens. Which, if you had a phobia of the Big Brother house, or of chickens, why would you enter the Big Brother house? Which, anybody out there that is in the UK and actually watches Big Brother as it airs, is that still a thing that they do? Do they still have to take care of the chickens and do that? Because I know in modern Big Brother, they still have to do their laundry, but they don't have any real tasks or chores or anything. But do they what is the house life like in modern BBUK? I mean, we'll find out eventually when we get down that road, but it's going to be a while. So we're kind of hovering in the 90s and 2000s for the next few months as we cover a lot of these reality TV shows. So Darren goes into the Big Brother diary room, and he's like, do I have to do this? And they're like, yes, you have to put the chickens in the yard. And he's like, chickens in the yard. But Mel's still helping him out. Trying to teach him how to handle the chickens and, don't hold them too low and don't pick up the rooster and things like that. Meanwhile, Nicholas is talking to Craig in particular about next week the guys keeping their votes together. And Craig's like, yeah, you don't have to tell me, man. I'm with you. I'm with you. And Mel doesn't want to sleep in the girls' room because the girls have been giving her the cold shoulder, especially Sada, because Sada blames her for all of her problems. Even though everybody, all the guys and Mel nominated you, Sada. It wasn't just Mel. And you've been a bitch to Mel the entire time. Why do you expect her to be nice to you if you're so not nice to her? Nicola decides she wants to, because everyone brought 2 magazines from home, and she wants to take those magazines and make wall art. And Darren's like, well, I'd like to read the magazines when I'm using the bathroom. And she's like, no, this is for art. and just proceeds to go on and do it. And while she's in there with the trio of Caroline and Sada, and she blames everyone for their problems. She's like, this is Mel's fault, and this is the guy's fault, and they should have just liked us and not nominated us. I'm like, first of all, Nicola, you're not even nominated. You didn't receive any votes. Secondly, just talk to people. Just manage relationships. You literally don't have to do anything else. You don't have any competitions. You have tasks, but you don't have any, HOH, POV. You don't have eviction votes to worry about. All you have to do is talk to these people. And you still refuse to do it. And then you wonder why you're in the spot you're in. It's ridiculous. Caroline also, she's talking about I just don't know if they talk about strategy, and she's like, oh, that would just be horrible. And I'm like, you're just not meant for the game. You shouldn't have signed up for this. Granted, it's the first season. I can't blame people for not knowing exactly what they were getting themselves into. But if anyone in season 2 starts bitching about nominating people to this extent, they know. They watched the season, I would hope. And then Mel brings up the concept of strategically, not necessarily telling everyone you're going to vote for, which apparently they're not allowed to do, which I will get into. And Sada's like, oh, you were with the boys strategizing against me? And she's like, no, I'm just saying that, if you make connections with certain people, you're more inclined to vote with them, and that's not something you've done. And Sada just grills her for 10 minutes. And I'm like, this is the game. Granted, I guess you're not allowed to, try to control the votes. But, the game is make connections. If you don't make connections, you'll get nominated. If the public doesn't like you, you'll go home, right? And Sada she doesn't care. She acts like she should have just showed up, and everyone should have been like, "Oh, you're a hippie? You see auras? You're a vegan? Wow, you deserve 70,000 or however much they win. You deserve to win this game." And she's like, "Yes, I do." And then she just marches to the end with Caroline and Nicola, and nobody thought twice about it. And that's bullshit. You don't get to win everything. It's borderline offensive how highly she thinks of herself. And then she goes, I could have strategized too. I could have done that. And I'm like, then why didn't you do it? If it's something you could have done, do it. And then Craig and Nicola get into an argument because Craig was like, listen, I want to save a couple of the magazines. And Nicola's like, why? I'm making art. And he's like, yeah, but some of the people could use them. And she's like, yeah, I'm using them for art. And he's like, listen, the art's great. It's beautiful. Looks good. And it does look good. He's like, but we all could use the magazines. We can't really use the art. It's not it's great, but we're not benefiting from it every day. She's like, well, why not? You can look at it every day. It's great. And he's like, yeah, okay, yes. But and it's the same argument he had with Sada about the tofu. It's like, yes, in most situations, by all means, do your magazine thing. It's cool. It looks good. But we're all stuck in here with very little supplies. Maybe we should, focus on other things. He's not wrong, but Nicola does the same thing that Sada and Caroline do. They refuse to see a point of view because why should I not be able to do what I want to do? Well, you signed up for this game, and this game entails having to get along and live with these other people, not just Caroline and Sada, but the whole rest of the house, Craig included. So I thought I've been really souring on Nicola Because even though she was in the trio, I still liked her and enjoyed her. But just over the time, she's so selfish and just mean about a lot of things, and whiny, and it's like, good God, just go back to your life and leave the game if it's that big of a deal. So there's a tense dinner because of this incident, and Nicola doesn't even go to eat dinner at the table. She's like, I'm going to sit outside and smoke my cigarettes. And then the trio decides they want to sleep outside to avoid Mel. That's how petty this has gotten. That the girl's like, I don't even want to be in the same room as her. She's such a bitch. She voted for us. Even though we called her a slut, she should have begged us for friendship. But Caroline does end up going back inside and having some conversation. She is trying to make a relationship in the house so that she doesn't get, if she stays, she won't be immediately nominated again. But Nicola and Sada stay out there all night long. And while they're out there, Mel and Andy are inside kind of flirting with each other, and they're just out there shit-talking Mel and Andy. They're like, oh, she's so insecure, yeah, and she needs him way more than he needs her. He's just going to screw her over, and she's so stupid for not wanting to be out here with us. And I'm like, go, the audacity, the narcissism. Go fuck yourself. So then that heads us into day 15, eviction day. So we will go from 10 people in the house to 9 people in the house. And one of the people going home, I wish I could vote both of them out. I wish there was a number to call to send both of them home. And then, holy shit, we have a host. Her name's Davina. So we have a live show host. So I was like, oh my God, someone's running the ship. Oh my God, hey, there she is. And she shows us outside the house where basically the contestants, the house is like across a bridge. And the way it's set up on the outside, there's like sirens and dogs barking and shit. It looks like a police raid, right? It's kind of an interesting setup. And you have to, like, Total Drama Island style, walk across the bridge to get to the studio to do your interview and go home. So it's like you got to leave the house, walk the bridge of shame, and go to the studio of losers. Which, I saw that, I just immediately was like, man, I could be watching Total Drama Island right now. Which I may cover on this show, because it technically is a reality parody show. So maybe in the future, if enough people comment and want that to happen, we might review some seasons of Total Drama. Like, subscribe, comment below. Shameless plug aside. The only guy Sada likes is Nicholas. And that's hilarious because we all know that Nicholas is the last person anyone should trust in this house. In a positive way, though. I think he's doing great. You know, on the last podcast, how I feel about Nicholas. And it's a late night for everyone before the eviction because everyone's staying up late and kind of just, the shoes dropped with the noms, but, like, it doesn't really get real until after that first eviction. That's every Big Brother season, American, UK, whatever. When that first person leaves, it's real. Because even when you're nominated, you don't everyone's still there, right? It's all still feels like the same. But when that first person walks out the door, the idea of danger is extremely real. So, and the guys, Caroline's basically asking like why she was nominated, why she wasn't vibing with everybody. And they all kind of go around and say it's the little things, and we're all going to get on each other's nerves. And Andy's like, I don't like how you load tea bags. It annoys me how you put tea bags in your cup. That's not a reason I nominated you, but like that's a thing. It's the little things, and there's probably little things that you don't like about me. And she's like, well, yeah, I don't like how you're always you're so competitive about board games. He's like, see, It's nothing personal. We just all had to go off of something to nominate someone, and you at times could be kind of annoying. So she's a little bit, like, they laugh about it, but then they have a group meeting where Sada's like, I just want, I know I'm probably going home, but I want Caroline, when she stays, to have more support from the house, because nobody came up to me and asked me if I was doing okay. And I don't want anyone to have to feel like I felt this week alone. And like no one supported me. And while everyone bought into it, they're like, yes, we'll try to. But their point was not everyone relays their emotions and support vocally that way. But they'll try in their own ways to be more supportive of the nominees in the future. But my point was, like, if I would have been sitting at that table, I'd have said 3 words. Go fuck yourself. Because that's just so stupid. People are going to go home. You're nominated, and that sucks. But since you can't campaign to the house guests, and the viewers are going to vote, why don't you try being good television? Have fun. Or 2 ways. You can go about this 2 ways, right? Have fun. Hang out with the house guests. Do interesting, captivating things. Start to be likable to the public. That's how you stay in the house. You're nominated. You should turn it around. Or the second option, and it could still keep you in the house, be a total bitch canoe. Not in this way. Not in the whiny, woe is me way. But the fucking, like, go to the DR and be like, I'm going to make everyone's life a living hell because they nominated me. I mean, just fucking go off the rails. Be insane. Drive people up the wall. The public may keep you just because they want to see you in that house doing that stuff. Fair enough, right? That's what I would want to see. Either one is a viable option. Option 1 is a little easier for your living situation, but option 2, because apparently, from what I understand, Big Brother in the UK is popular, at least at the time, from 2000, like, I don't know where it fell off, but it's fucking popular in the UK. People like start clothing brands and shit like that. People become superstars in a way after being on the show. And celebrities, after they have fallen off the rails, like as you see it in the Ricky Gervais show extras, they end up on Celebrity Big Brother because their careers are over. So, embrace it. Because when she goes out into the public right now, I don't think she's going to be fared very well. And then, this is such a weird thing. So Darren talks about when he has sex, he has like stages. Like he wants to have like a quickie, drink a little bit of a beer, then put on furry gloves, like turn them inside out, and start touching each other so that it feels like someone else is touching you, and that'll arouse you further. It was the weirdest thing I've ever heard. Or at least for a while, okay? I'm not saying that, like, hey, to each their own, man. If that's what gets your gears going, by all means. But I was like, what? How do you do this? Why? What? Like, I was more captivated by that story than anything Sada has ever said in her entire run on the show. And then they're all tasked with painting portraits of each other. And the girls, minus Mel, are bonding in the room. So we got the trio plus Anna bonding in the room again. So again, they don't include Mel. And then they wonder why Mel potentially would nominate a woman. And she didn't nominate 2 women. She nominated Craig, too. But she just really didn't vibe with Sada. So, if Sada stays in the house, she's probably going to get nominated again. But if Caroline stays, maybe potentially she'll nominate 2 guys. So they show the votes. And at this point, with 58%, Sada will be going home unless, like, they have a huge amount of calls within the next, like, 10 minutes. Right? And then they show a very wonderful side segment. These kids, these nerdy little kids, have crafted a guinea pig, they made a full-scale replica of like a whole miniature replica of the Big Brother house. Like, it was very good, very detailed. And they put a bunch of guinea pigs in it, and which is essentially what the show in a whole is. It's treating people like guinea pigs under a microscope, right? And like trying to watch people, and that kind of thing. It's very, experimental. It's a social experiment. So they have guinea pigs that they've named after the house guests. And he's like, this guinea pig's name is Sada, and she can read people's auras. And I'm like, oh my God, this kid's throwing major shade. This 8-year-old snotty-nosed, dorky kid is throwing so much shade at Sada, and I'm fucking living for it. And then he's like, and this is Caroline, and she loves to wear lipstick and sing songs in the corner of the guinea pig enclosure. I'm like, oh my God, that's great. This kid needs to host a show. Like, this kid's got more charisma than Davina or whatever her name is. And like Davina, every time we cut back to her, and it's a lot, she like over-explains everything. Where she's like, let's go ahead and let's check in on the house guests right now. There's Sada yawning, and there's Caroline. She's drinking tea. And it's like, okay, one, we can see that, right? Two, that's not important whatsoever. Like, oh yeah, there's Craig. He's standing there. Yeah, he looks very intense. Oh, and there's Darren. He's laughing. Look at him laugh. Like what is that? I don't understand. So they interview. This is so weird. This was a segment I was like, whoa, what the fuck? So they interview people on the street, I think. But instead of being like how like I probably would have went about this, where you use on the street and like, hey, do you watch Big Brother? No. Alrighty then. Or you'd be like, hey, who do you want to go home, Sada or Caroline? Caroline. All right, thank you. Like, like it's kind of an odd thing to do, but like they're in various locations, like they're in a grocery store, and these two people are like looking at like packs of food, and like, I think that Caroline should go home. And the other person's like turning over fruit and is like, I think that Sada should go home. She's causing more tension in the house. And I'm like, this is not how grocery stores are. You're not going to talk to complete strangers about Big Brother while looking at like nobody. You're grocery shopping. No one wants to be grocery shopping. And then there's like people at a gym, like sitting in a circle. It's like, well, Caroline is really annoying with that laugh. Yes, but Sada is very self-centered, and I just think she needs to go. Well, I like Sada because she has a whole hipster vibe that I can really get down with. And I'm like, those fucking meatheads aren't watching the show, and if they are, they're not talking about it at the gym. Like, this just felt like such a forced segment to me. Now, it was great to see. They're at a casino. People are gambling, smoking, and probably doing drugs and fornication. And they want us to believe that the main point of topic is what's going on in the Big Brother house? Really? So then she's like, all right, we're going to reveal to the house guests who's getting evicted, and then they'll have 2 hours until they have to leave that. I'm like, 2 hours? Like, what the fuck? In American Big Brother, and I think in modern Big Brother UK, again, I need a British viewer so I can know the exact format nowadays, but to my knowledge, the modern UK version does this, but American version does this. When you're evicted, You have like a couple of minutes to say goodbye, and then you walk out the front door and you go into the studio and have an interview with Julie. Or I think Emma Willis is the host of UK nowadays. But either way, you leave immediately. 2 hours? Why? So she reveals that about the same percentage of votes, Sada is evicted. And she's like, oh, yay, this is what I wanted. And I'm like, that's the biggest fucking cop-out. To be like, oh, yes, I wanted to leave. So actually, viewers, you did exactly what I wanted to, which means you actually like me. Go fuck yourself. I hope this podcast finds its way to Sada so she can know just how much the 2000s version of you, which you've had 20 years to grow, but this version of you is fucking terrible. So she's excited. And she's like, I'm going to go home and have sex and talk to all the press about, and kind of just, ride my way through it. I'm like, you don't think the press is going to hammer you about some of the shit you said in the house? Like, really? They're the press. Like, these are the people that, like, paparazzi, ruin people's lives. And you think they're not going to fucking bring some shit up that you don't want to talk about? So she, after 2 hours, leaves the house. And the host is like a less charming version of Helen. I said Helen, damn it. Ellen DeGeneres. She's like a less charming version of her on the show. She's like, oh, let's go talk to Caroline's family. They all had the same laugh. I was like, oh no, get me out of here. And then we're going to go talk to Sada's mom. Are you ready to get your baby girl back? Yeah, of course you are. Oh, cannot wait to see Sada. And we're going to hope she gives us all the dirt about inside the house. But we're going to ask her politely, though. It's like, what? Why do you need to do that? Like, you're like over-expressing, just let it come naturally, Davina. And then they interview Sada, and basically she just says, I was an oddball, and so I think I just needed to go because I just wasn't vibing with people. And then she's like, Nicholas is probably one of the people I'm going to keep in touch with. And they're like, everyone's like, oh, that Nicholas. He's a scheming little person. Sada's mom calls Nicholas a scheming rat. And I'm like, scheming, yes. But rat, no. The rat type floater game in Big Brother is more like spreading information to both sides. He doesn't really spread info. He just spreads himself. He's definitely a floater, but not a rat floater by American standards. And she sees some clips of him double dealing, but she's still like, he's a good guy. And then she's like, well, they're like, why do you think Mel bonded with the guys? And this was her chance to be like, I just didn't have enough time to talk to her and all that stuff. She goes, well, Mel's bisexual. So, bisexual people are more inclined to align with guys. And I'm like, what the fuck? That doesn't make any sense. Like, any sense. Your sexuality does not control your strategical implications. That is not a thing, right? And then Sada thinks that Tom will go next, and they revealed by a public vote they think that that Caroline or Nicholas could go. And I'm like, not Nicholas! And like the public is like scathing about Nicholas. Like they want him out bad. So if he hits the block, he's probably going home no matter what. And I'm like, why? He's being sneaky, but isn't that what you want? Isn't that interesting television? Do you want everyone to hold hands and skip and sing Kumbaya and blow each other in the bathroom? No, you want to see some fucking drama. That's the point of putting all these people in a house. I know I talked about the real world, taking time to actually talk about real things and people grow, and that was nice. And it was nice, but there were arguments in the real world. There were moments, mostly with Kevin, that, got explosive. We needed that. We haven't really had that. We've had small little bickers, but we haven't had an explosion yet, right? So we want that. And Nicholas doing all this scheming stuff and doing all this running around, causing all this dissension, that's what we need. And you want to vote that out? It's frustrating. And the public also thinks Tom and Mel are front runners to win the game. Mel, I'm cool with. Tom, he's not. Seems like a genuinely great guy. But he's not the most captivating television, so I would prefer if he didn't win the game. That brings us to day 16. And there's only 3 notes about day 16, so this is nearing the end of the podcast here. So we're going to be a little over 30 minutes, which is actually kind of where I wanted to keep it today. So the boys were warned. The whole house was warned, but this was pointed toward the boys clearly. That strategy, as far as talking about who you're voting for and agreeing to vote the same way, is not allowed in the Big Brother game. And if they continue to do it, their votes won't count and they will get nominated. What kind of bullshit is that? I'm going to use a British term. This is bollocks. This is pure bollocks. Because I know that this is more of a social game. This is more real world, less Big Brother Survivor, right? But people are getting sent home. And if someone wants to cause drama and do this voting thing, the public clearly doesn't want to vote them to win. So what do you have to worry about? Let the game play itself out. Don't constrict them to force them to basically be boring because they don't have any game to play. Like, why is that a rule? It's so frustrating. I understand. Like, you can't intimidate people, you can't threaten people. That makes total sense. But you should be able to, hey, let's vote together. And then just vote the same way. What's the problem with that? And also, they could try to work around this, but, people are going to vote for who they want to vote for anyway. We just want people to organically vote randomly. Look at the first merge vote in Survivor Borneo. And tell me, that's not... Random eliminations aren't interesting. Interesting is calculated strategic maneuvers. And so apparently BBUK just strongly discourages this. Then we get a scene where they have an art exhibition with food art and portraits. And Tom actually goes very deep. He's like, I drew Caroline without a leg because I feel like she hasn't fully entered the house yet. She hasn't brought all of herself here. And he's clearly making a joke about it. And he's like, and also I drew this, and this means that, and this color brings out this sort of dexterity. It was very fun, very very fun side of Tom there. But seeing the art exhibition gave me PTSD from the real world. I was waiting for someone's masturbation portrait from 1979. It didn't happen, but I was waiting for it. And that ends our discussion for today on the Big Brother UK. So tune in next time where we're gonna see life after Sada's eviction. Leading into the next set of nominations. Who will get nominated? Please be Caroline and Nicola. Who will go home? Kind of at this point, I'm hoping for Nicola. Save Nicholas! Save Nicholas, goddammit. I want him to stay. He's playing too well. Reward him. Guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. We got plenty of podcasts, videos, etc. coming this year and multiple subsequent years after, I hope. Thanks you so much for the support as I've been going down this journey in my life. And I hope to continue to do this for quite some time. As always, guys, I'm Mac Taylor. Stay safe, stay nerdy. Until next time.